Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is our call to order to our meeting this afternoon on Wednesday, May 15th. We would like to acknowledge the absence of our mayor. He was unable to be with us tonight. My name is Leslie Jones. I will be acting as Mayor Pro Tem for tonight's meeting. We would like to start off with an invocation offered by one of my esteemed colleagues to my left. Councilmember Garrett and Councilmember Egbert will offer the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for volunteering.
Our kind Father in heaven, we bow before thee this evening, grateful for this day and the beautiful weather we've been able to enjoy. We're thankful for this chance that we have to meet tonight and discuss these items that are on the agenda. We're thankful for this community that we get to live in and grateful for the wonderful people here. We pray for everyone here that lives in this community that they will receive those blessings that they stand in need of and guide and protect those who need thy guidance. We pray that thou will bless those who are suffering in any way, that they will be comforted and guided by thee. We pray for guidance as leaders of the city, that we will make prudent decisions and what is best for this whole city as a whole. We pray for these things now in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will start with our public forum. We have one person that has signed up to comment during public forum, Cameron Rich. Will you please approach the microphone and state your name again?
Cameron Rich. It's kind of weird being the only person that comes up here ever. I pulled up and I was like, there's no cars here. Last time it was packed.
Well, it's kind of weird to be up here on the dais and there's not a person in the room. And we have to open it up to public comments, so.
Sean's not here, Casey's not here, Mayor's not here. I might as well not have gotten out of bed, so.
Casey, council members Beck and Carlson are on the phone.
That's right. Thank you for acknowledging that. They are with us in spirit through this speakerphone.
All right, well, I just have a couple comments. I as you know, I used to do this online and you guys said you preferred that I come in, so now you're forced to look at me. But I emailed Bryce earlier today, actually, Corey today. I was going through the budget, and there's just I have a couple comments on it. They're big line items.
Okay, I'm gonna stop for just a minute. Are your comments specific to action item number 3 on our agenda today?
I don't think it's public. It's not open for public, so that's why.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Carry on.
So I know there's like the devil's in the details of like the subcategories, but I just had a couple of thoughts on it when I look at it. Is first, there were a lot of salary increases. You guys should probably get salary increases because having to deal with me, I noticed you guys didn't get one. For me, I like to see it closer to wage inflation. CPI, wage inflation is way below CPI, and there's some pretty big salary increases, but I don't know if could be new headcount versus year over year. But there were some pretty big numbers there.
We do an extensive, and I'll have Bryce speak to that point, but there's a pretty extensive.
I asked him, I think he's going to email it to me. That was
Okay,
just one of my-
regular
Let him just
wage
address that so
analysis, so
that
go
can
ahead.
maybe answer
Yeah.
his question real quick.
Yeah, actually, this is, as we discuss that item, we have a point to discuss that, but the salary increases that you'll see tonight aren't actual salary increases. They are budgeted increases to the budget line items for down in January or at a later date that we can discuss those. We're putting some budget numbers in there right now, but we are not approving salary increases with this tentative budget. And then also there are 4 new positions that are increasing those
there you go.
salaries.
So, okay, that makes sense.
Other.
I was just curious. The second one was, I'm going to get heat for this one, which is Pioneer Day. I happen to have never gone to it, but it's a big number, and I think Mapleton, for its size, it's a really big number. I did notice that it was smaller, but for me, I feel like that's something that maybe you should look at lowering a little bit. I mean, it's like 200 grand?
And one thing to address with that too is you'll see that number, but keep in mind that that does not show all the sponsorships we're
Sponsorships.
receiving. So our goal each year is to try to bring that close
Yeah.
together as we
Okay.
can. It hadn't reached this yet.
Yeah.
Last year, Logan, what'd we end up with? Between the,
So 83,000 sponsorships, and then revenues were about 23,000.
and that did not include in-kind as well. So anyway, the goal each year, and we're hoping this year that we got this.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes. But
I'll
what-
go to it this year, so then maybe I'll,
You should go to it this year. I would encourage and welcome you to do that.
And you're also welcome to help us as we build partnerships for future, or sponsorships. So that's something we could speak about offline if you'd like to contribute in that way, in some way to narrow that gap.
We always need volunteers,
it's
Cameron.
easier to throw spears than to be the one helping,
We're
so.
inviting you to come along.
The last thing I want to say, which is why I brought up the first two topics, is that I'm hoping in the budget, I was just trying to find money for this. So, is that I'm very passionate about connecting the Parkway Trail with the canyon. And I think now it's even more important than it's ever been because now there's Clegg Canyon, which is full of people. There's also Maple Hills. And if you go there on like a Saturday morning in the summer, it's like I-15. You got like moms with strollers, you got kids with dogs, you got cyclists. But then you have like non-resident campers going like 60 up the road. And it's like a bottleneck. There's not even really anywhere to even walk on the outside of the road. So I think it's very dangerous. I was looking at it though, I think there's 4 properties right after Clegg's Trail that will never be developed. They're like locked in for like, it's one of them's my subdivision. I know they're not gonna be subdivided. So sooner or later, it's in the plan to put trails there. Sooner or later, it's gonna need a trail and it's not gonna get cheaper. So I think there's 4 properties that I think that we should do. And then it goes into a developer, Andy Ball, he's already got approved for TDR. And I think if he does do it, he's trying to sell his house, they'll have to put it in themselves. So for me, I would like to see that just because it's so dangerous. I see it all the time. And I think from a recreational standpoint, I mean, everyone loves our canyon, everyone loves our trail, they should be connected. And then from a safety standpoint, it's super, super dangerous right there. And so I just think that's something, I don't want to wait till something, I mean, this is going to get dark, but I had a neighbor 2 years ago that got killed on the road. So I mean, and I see this and I'm like, people can't even get off the road, and these people going up to the campground, they don't live here, they don't care, they're going as fast as they can. So that's why I brought up the first 2, is I was trying to find money for the third one. So if you want to spend $300 on Pioneer Day but still put the trail in, I'm willing to pay more. So those were my comments. That's all I have.
It's good feedback on the trail. We're always looking how to prioritize those best.
Yeah. So that's all.
Appreciate it,
Yep.
Cameron. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thanks. Got to get to my kids now, my mom.
Yep. Have a great night. Hey, thank you. Have a great night. Irma, Utah Risk Management Agency has a presentation for us this evening.
I think, well, thank you for taking some time this evening. Let us come visit with you and share a little information about Irma. We often get referred to as your insurance company, but actually you're your insurance company. We just manage it on your behalf and the behalf of several other cities. So next slide. I apologize for those who can't see this slide presentation, but I did leave a notebook there with some additional information. These are the cities that are members of IRMA currently. We have 2 other cities that have expressed interest about joining IRMA. We're selective because our goal is to find cities who would rather reduce risk or mitigate risk than pay claims. We're not an insurance company. We're a risk management organization. We were created in 1985 by a group of cities. Just so you know, Mapleton's been a member since 1986. So within a year of our existence and creation, we're a government entity, so we don't operate like an insurance company. We can't make a profit. We're not designed to make a profit in any way. Next slide. We are accredited nationally, and we're what they call an exempt commercial provider, which means if you were to go out and buy insurance on your own, you would have to hire a broker or a brokerage and you would pay a significant amount of fees for that. And we don't have to do that. Each member city has a member is on the IRMA board, which makes decisions about coverage and direction for the board and policy. Your city manager, Corey, is that representative. And you are self-insured with the exception of some catastrophic policies we purchase. But 99.9% of our claims are within our self-insured retention, meaning we don't really go out to insurance. So we have very high deductibles is how you would look at it. It's a little bit different than in the personal lines. Commercial's a little bit different. Next slide, please. We're full service. Our costs are significantly less than if you were to go to an insurance company. We are on average about 15% below market, and we provide things that you couldn't purchase otherwise. For instance, you have land use coverage because your board wants you to, and that's covered out of our self-insured retention. But you can't purchase that on the open market. You could not go to an insurance company and buy land use coverage today. It doesn't exist because it's such a volatile issue, as you probably are aware. And members don't pay other members' claims. You only pay for yours. You contribute into the fund, and we pay out of the self-insured fund. So you don't pay, while you have large cities like Ogden and West Valley and Orem that are part of IRMA, you don't pay, and you're not affected by their claims either. Next slide. These are the services that IRMA provides. I won't go through each one of them because I'll talk a little bit about them in the 6 or 8 slides I have left. But we are a full service risk management support. So we provide, one of the things we do provide to a number of our cities is consultation. We get questions from member cities about contractual risk transfer and vendor agreements and liability and risks associated with different things. And we do all the research. We have an analyst who does that research. And we have the ability to tap into a lot of resources to get information that the city wouldn't necessarily know to go to or be able to get that information. Next slide. So this is a little bit about that risk assessment and analytics that we do. And so we differentiate by using a bunch of those resources down there. We can access claims from throughout the world, legal, so on. I actually have our in-house attorney with me, Brandon Crowther, today, who can access legal decisions and provide good risk consulting when any of our members want that. The thing I want to present real quickly to focus on is that we use data. We don't speculate on anything. So because there's a difference between causation and correlation. Right, we can say that, well, this is caused by that, when in fact it may not be, but there's a correlation between the two. And I have a couple of examples. You go to the next slide, Bryce. So I'm assuming all of you've been to the doctor and you've been through the BMI process, where that was probably for most of us unpleasant to hear the doctor tell you that your BMI is a certain thing or whatever. Just so you know, that it was research done between 1830 and 1850, and we're still using it. Needless to say, it's not accurate, and there is correlation, but absolutely no definitive causation.
Oh, good.
And for those that know about anything about statistics, you can't even extrapolate it to the first standard deviation. It's somewhere about 9 to 12% accurate if you look at the statistics on medical records now. So, next slide. So here's my example. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and I are the same exact height and weight. We both have a BMI of 34.3 and are considered morbidly obese under the BMI. I don't want you to pick who's in better shape. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is considered morbidly obese under the BMI, which shows you just how flawed the theory is, because the data doesn't support it. So next one, Bryce. Here's another one, and I don't want to pick on any one individual or group, but anybody know what 88% of all citations are written for in the state of Utah and nationally? This data comes from NHTSA and the USDOT. Any ideas? Speeding? They write 88% of all tickets are written for speeding. Anybody know what the top 5 causes of accident and fatalities are?
Texting.
Speeding's not one of them.
Distracted driving.
Distracted driving is number 1. Yeah, next slide. Unsafe lane changes is on there. I think it's number 5. Go to the next slide. Distracted driving is number 1, yet only 6% of citations nationwide are written for distracted driving. And you can go down, you can look at those, but my whole point is you can't reduce risk with bad information, right? And so it's easy to write speeding tickets because we have a prima facie speed law here. If you're going over that number, you're automatically guilty, for lack of a better term, right? We don't work that way in IRMA and in risk management. We get the data so that you can make an informed decision. Rather than a correlation, we're going to tell you what the causation is. Or we may tell you that there's only a correlation, so you can make an informed decision. Next slide. You're self-insured for the most part. We do buy catastrophic insurance because you don't want to contribute enough to pay for or replace all the buildings that you own, because that would be cost prohibitive from a premium standpoint. So we do have general liability coverage, directors and officers, which covers you as a council, errors and omissions. We have law enforcement liability, personal injury, bodily injury, property damage, and then we purchase some additional in cyber risk, and an auto physical damage program that we operate, and off-duty and high-value vehicles. The next one, these are coverages that you either have to pay what they call a minimum premium, which is usually incredibly high, like $1 million. If you want aviation, anything, and drones are considered aviation by the insurance industry, it's $1 million minimum premium. We cover that, and it's just part of the self-insured program that IRMA operates. Next, please. Like I was saying, we're about 15% below the market on any purchases that we do make, and we provide coverage that you can't. The thing that is so unique about IRMA, and I've never seen this anywhere else, is that we are not underwritten. We are based on actuarial probability models. They don't compare the losses in Ogden, West Valley, Orem, Cedar City with Mapleton. They only look at the potential risk in Mapleton, and that's where your contribution amount comes from. So normally, like your regular insurance, if you haven't seen it yet, when you renew your auto, it's going to go up about 28% this year because of huge losses on the East Coast during hurricanes last year. All the big insurers, Liberty Mutual, State Farm, Allstate, they're all raising auto rates. Ours are not raising because ours are based on probability models instead of underwriting and trying to get it spread completely across the board to keep it affordable, as it were. Next slide. In our office, we engage or have professional claims adjusters and managers. So when you do have a claim, it would be just like interacting with an insurance company, but we're representing you and your interests. We have discounted legal fees through outside counsel, but in the last 2 years, 2 years ago, they funded it. The board supported an in-house claims and litigation attorney so that we can save some of those costs. Our average legal fee, and we get discounted, is about $370 an hour. But that cost of doing it in-house is so much cheaper for our members. So we have a shared loss provision, meaning that if you have a large loss that's over a calculated amount by the actuaries, you don't pay all of that, the rest of the group pays that with you. So no one gets such a big loss that it's untenable for them. And then we front money through settlement agreements, so it doesn't come into your budget. You budget down the road to repay it back to the fund, is how it works. So it would be very similar to if you had your own $50 or $60 million fund sitting there that you could just pay claims or settlement with if you had one. Okay, next slide, please. The advantages are you control IRMA. You are a member, it's a self-insured fund. Corey represents you, and he's the one on the board that represents your interests with regard to what kind of coverage you want and coverage amounts. Obviously, I make recommendations because I'm in the industry, and the board adopts those. But there are things like drone coverage, since everybody's using drones now, but you have to buy an aviation policy and pay $1 million minimum premium, that IRMA board said, no, we want to cover it through our self-insured retention program. We provide all services associated with risk management, so we're not just an insurance company. As a matter of fact, we look at it the other way. We're not an insurance company. You're getting things that you could not get anywhere else, and we are, as far as I know, and I shouldn't say this out in public, but I have, and it hasn't come back to haunt me yet. Our general liability policy that we buy, what we call catastrophic or excess insurance, has no aggregate, and I'm fascinated that our insurer continues to do that. But it's a testament to the fact that our cities are proactive about risk management. Normally, when you see a policy, if you look at your auto policy or house policy, you have a deductible, and then you have coverage amounts, and then you have an aggregate, maybe 1 million, 3 million, or whatever. And that's all they're gonna pay. We have no aggregate, meaning that if we had 50 claims and they were all $6 million, our insurance would pay out $300 million that year. And I've been fascinated with when they're gonna dial that back, but they haven't yet. So I think it's a testament to our cities being focused on risk instead of claims. I talked about some of these other things, that you're not affected by other people's losses. It's not like traditional insurance because it's your money that's pooled. We use traditional insurance concepts with regard to settling. We don't just settle. And that's the other thing I would say by it being member controlled. You make the decision at the city whether or not you settle a claim. We do the work and we make recommendations one way or another. Yes, you probably should, or no, you shouldn't, or whatever, but it's ultimately the city of Mapleton's decision whether or not a claim gets settled. And so that's incredibly unique that you don't see with any other entity, especially with insurance companies, because once you pay your deductible, you have no say in whether or not it gets settled or at what point or how much it gets settled for. So we just wanted to take the opportunity to go over IRMA and answer any questions you might have about how we operate. We've provided a book there that has a lot of this information. Most of it is in there. Our contact information, if you have any questions or would like to know more, we're glad to provide that information. Or if you have any questions now, I'm glad to answer.
Just have a curious question. This is a government agency.
Yes.
Clearly, cities aren't required to be members of IRMA. Why
Right.
would a city not be a member of IRMA? Would it all be just done internally, or why would a city not?
Lack of understanding about the concepts in risk management and self-insured retention is one. Any city that I will argue from a cost perspective, because of the coverage you get, any city under population of about 35,000 that isn't with IRMA is losing money every year.
Oh,
Okay. The second is some cities aren't proactive about risk management and don't want to be.
That's what your point is about claims versus risk management.
Right,
Got it.
they want to pay their deductible and then let the insurance company handle it. And that, the sad part of that is every year you pay your premium, and if you don't have a claim, you get nothing back. In IRMA, it all stays in the fund. So it's there for you down the road. And then some people say, well, wouldn't that fund get big if you don't have a lot of claims? Yes, it does, but the cost of claims increase. The dollar value of a claim 10 years ago and the dollar value of an auto vehicle accident, personal injury claim now are significantly different.
Right.
So you're investing in your own fund is what you're doing.
Great.
And that's very contrary to normal insurance, so,
Great, thank you.
okay.
I appreciate this. I don't think I realized the scope of IRMA. I have a question about trainings.
Yes,
Is the training available for city personnel alone, or is it something that we could say, hey, maybe businesses in our community could participate in a HR-related training? Is it just for personnel?
Historically, it's been for personnel and boards and commissions. We do planning commission training and council commission training on ethics and compliance and so on. And then supervisory training for, those who are going to be supervisors or currently are. But if the city wanted to put on some sort of a training for a community group that fits in the criteria of what we're able to provide, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think there's some intriguing options as we're working on some community education, so, yeah, we'll.
Yeah, we
look at
maybe
that.
could include them in that 101 program we're finalizing, so.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like that.
so, yeah, we'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you for
Very
your
much.
time. Have a great rest of the evening.
Great, thank
You
you for
too.
coming, thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Oh. Do you have a motion to approve or amend the consent agenda?
Yeah, council, in regards to item 2, we did have a quick revision to the resolution, just more of a cleanup item. Bryce, can you go to that next? So you can see here, we've just made a few changes to that, so I'll read it real quick. Mapleton City supports the application of Utah Valley refugees in their mission to assist refugees who have been displaced due to political instability around the world and becoming self-reliant, thereby helping them to thrive in Utah County as individuals and families. So you can see the revision we're proposing on that resolution.
Thanks for that, Ed. I think it'll help with comprehension. I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, so there's been a motion to approve by Councilmember Egbert, a second by Councilmember Garrett. Councilmember Carlson.
Yes.
Egbert, yes.
Heck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Okay, consent agenda has been approved. Now we have our action items. Bryce Euler, you want to take this one?
Yes, thank you. So tonight we are adopting a tentative budget. Some things to keep in mind that this is a tentative budget. It's not our final budget, and we'll be bringing our final budget in June. Another item to consider is that the city council has reviewed the budget. They've received an itemized budget and have reviewed that, and staff has also met with the budget committee and has discussed the budget in detail with the budget committee. So tonight we're just doing an overview of the budget. And we'll start by discussing some of the revenues, beginning with the property tax discussion. This budget is budgeting a small increase for the truth in taxation that will be proposed to council in our next city council meeting. The truth in taxation is a way to increase our property tax revenues and not seriously increase the property tax rate itself. The items I want to discuss here is in our next meeting or technically before June 22nd, we have to approve and adopt a proposed tax rate. And this year it would likely be the current tax rate that we have right now. Now, I did speak with the county, and their property valuations will hopefully be done early this year. And if they are done early this year, then we will know what the tax rate would actually be before our meeting. So we'll be able to have a better discussion about that. His preliminary discussion that I had is that they're not expecting home valuations to increase significantly, and potentially there's always that chance that they are valued less. So we'll keep an eye on that as staff and have that discussion with you before we get to the point of continuing with the truth in taxation. Assuming property values do increase and we keep the rate that the city currently has, then we would have our public hearing on August 7th to discuss, to give public the chance to discuss the truth in taxation. Do you have any questions with the truth in taxation? Some other revenue items that I wanted to point out is this budget is budgeting for an increase in sales tax. Those increases are just really kind of true us up to what the trend of sales tax has been for Mapleton. And note that we are not including an increase to our sales tax from a RAP tax. So the RAP tax that we have discussed in our retreats and different meetings, that will be an item later on in the year that will be presented as a ballot item. So our attorney's working on that and preparing what we need to prepare for the RAP tax to be on the ballot. So this budget, we're not going to budget anything for it, knowing that that's going to go on the ballot later in the year. And we are beginning to collect revenues from our development on the south end of town. We're expected to see some building permits from that development, and that's the $380,000 is the amount that we're expected this year to collect in revenues for that development. Sewer rate increases. This will be our last year that we are proposing a sewer rate increase, and even with the increase in bonding that Spanish Fork did, which is increasing our note to Spanish Fork, we're hitting our target of $68, which is great, and this will be the last year that we are proposing that increase. That dollar amount, the $68, Rob and I will reassess that. I'll bring that as a separate line item in our budget meeting. It'll be a public hearing item itself, so we'll reassess that, but it will be close to 68, 68 being the max. And then you can see we're going to be receiving some revenues from our Mapleton City Network of $788,000 is what we're budgeting. That would be if we have an average of 730, 750 customers, and we're on track to exceed that. So we'll continue to keep an eye on those numbers. Any questions or comments with the revenues?
Can you explain a little bit more in detail the 13% in the sales tax?
Yes.
Not the RAP itself, but what is the 13?
Yeah, so the sales tax is a really tricky number to nail down, but we've got currently, so in fiscal year 24, we are budgeting $2,952,000. It's likely that we'll come in higher than that. As we're getting closer, we've only got 2 more months of sales tax to receive, and it's likely that we'll be north of $3 million when the final sales tax numbers come in. In fiscal year 25, we're budgeting $3.2 million, which is 13%. It's actually 10% higher than I'm sorry, I'm looking at. Let me restate that. We're budgeting $2.2 million, and we'll come in closer to 2.3, 2.4. So 2.2 in fiscal year 25. We're budgeting $2.5 million. So the actual when our actual 2024 numbers come in, they're going to be higher than the 2024 budgeted. So that 13% will be less. So it's kind of a moving target, and it's kind of our best estimate that, hey, we think we're going to be 2.5 million, which is 13% higher than the current budget, even though that current budget's going to be our actual revenues will be higher, so it won't be an actual 13% increase. And it's important to note, we're not increasing the sales tax. We can't do that.
And that was mostly why I asked the question, it was so that the citizens watching would understand that this is a projected revenue increase on our part, what we're guessing we're gonna increase by, not us increasing sales tax by 13%.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify that.
This is, our revenues are expected to come in higher because we're expecting our residents to spend more money. We're also expecting more residents, which increases the amount of money we receive from the pool. Very good point that this is not a proper sales tax increase that we're imposing. It's just,
And that also, just so the public knows, that includes online consumer purchases.
correct.
Right. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Reed.
It's 103690 Sundred, it went up substantially. I just wanted to understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, so our miscellaneous, that is our miscellaneous general ledger account number. That is also kind of as we receive different types of revenues, there's criteria that myself and other department heads look at to determine whether or not we need to create its own line item. Usually, if it goes into that line item, it's because it's a one-time transaction, or maybe twice a year we might receive that. So we don't want to create a whole new line item for that revenue. So we just throw it into that miscellaneous, and we're just expecting more of that as. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Reed.
And on the 97, the ambulance, I thought most of the revenue was like early in the year, and it dropped off because Spanish Fork picked up more of the transfers. Is that not correct?
So the ambulance payments that we received, if you look back to fiscal year '22, we received 1.2 million. We earned 1.2 million in revenue with our ambulance transports.
Yeah.
Now Spanish Fork, when they completed the hospital in Spanish Fork, increased their fire budget. They took on the majority of those transports, and Mapleton transported fewer people from the hospital. So you can see in fiscal year '23, our revenues decreased back down to $354,000. That was consistent in '24 with our budget, and it's kind of what we're anticipating in '25. It's not that Mapleton does the first half of the year and Spanish Fork does the other half of the year. Mapleton helps when Spanish Fork asks, and we're happy to step in and do those transports. But Spanish Fork is the primary transporter for the hospital still. Reed, I hope that answers your question.
And I had one more on, I think it's 103712, which is county fire. Just wondering why they raised it $55,000.
So, Corey, forgive me if I am, yeah, so the reason we're doing that, let me consult with Corey first, if I could. It's a contract that we haven't signed yet, so we won't discuss that. This is a contract that's currently under discussion. So without going into detail, because it's not a contract that we've signed yet, but there's a possibility that there will be more coverage
Yeah. Well, to note on that, this is an item that has to come before you as a council. So when Bryce is talking about a contract, we're not signing a contract until we have discussions with you as a council. In fact, if we want to remove that item, that amount off the budget, we could. Chief, do you have any other thoughts on that too? We need to have some further discussions on it. It's been some really preliminary discussions on it, very small preliminary discussions. So I would say let's not even throw it on the budget as a number, so Bryce.
Well,
we
you're
can clean
building
that
the
up.
intrigue with that.
What's that?
You're building intrigue with that.
Yeah.
Building intrigue.
We just wanted to build the suspense with.
That's right,
with
yeah.
you, but, yeah, we'll have further discussion with you on that item. I'll decrease that back down to 5 to 15,000, depending on where we're actually at this year. We'll take a look at that again. Great question.
Yeah, I say good catch on that one too, Reed, with.
You answered my questions.
Okay.
Thanks, Reed.
Okay, moving on to the expenditure side of our budget. I just wanted to point out that we are, that you'll notice the Pioneer Day expense is being moved around a little bit. We used to pay for the majority of that out of the administration budget, and you'll see that is decreased significantly on the administration side. And in fact, we're removing it from the administration and adding it to the recreation budget. So, wanted to point that out, and a lot of that is actually happening in fiscal year '24. So you'll see some of that when we discuss the budget amendment. And then our next topic we kind of addressed in our public forum. You'll see that we have. You'll see some small increases in salaries throughout most of the departments. You'll see those increases, and then the small increases are for our typical January later on in the year. We don't want to put a date to that, but it's later on in the year when we have those discussions. We're not approving salary increases in this budget. We're just approving the budgeted increase in expenses there. When we have the salary discussion, we'll single that out and have that specific discussion with you.
And to note on that one, we kind of went back and forth whether to put that in the line item or leave it out. We're pretty indifferent to that. If you felt like, hey, let's not include it. And then in January, if we come back with some discussions, we can put it back in there. So we're indifferent to that. It was more of a, like Bryce said, more of a budget line item, recognizing that in the future, this would have to come back to the city council, which wouldn't be until January, so.
I prefer to just leave it in.
Okay.
Okay. And then you'll see, for example, in the streets department and in a lot of our public works departments, we are budgeting larger salary increases. What those are new positions. We've had this conversation with the Wage and Personnel Committee. Those would be for 2 operating positions and 1. Okay, ignore my note there. It is.
Got Rob excited though, so.
We're approving the budget, not the PowerPoint presentation. Sorry, Rob. But so this is approving 3 positions in our Public Works Department. 2.
It's just a draft, so
It is a tentative budget.
you could lose one of those, I guess.
And then some items to point out in our capital projects. You'll see some large vehicle replacement purchases. The biggest being the fire vehicle replacement. That is for a replacement of a vehicle that has served its time, and it is on our vehicle replacement schedule and is up for replacement. we are following that schedule, and this year it will be a $650,000 fire engine, and another truck for our fire department, like an F-150 type truck, and then some service trucks for our public works, and a service truck for our parks department. A response to a question that our budget committee had was, that is not a dump truck that is being purchased by the Parks Department. It's replacing an old truck that had a dump bed. So that's why the price was lower than it appeared. And then some parks equipment that's being purchased, such as a zero-turn lawnmower, different pieces of equipment. And then
Is there a vacuum truck too, or has that already been taken care of?
that is on this,
Well, yeah, this current fiscal year.
that's on fiscal year '24's budget. Is that gonna be purchased in fiscal year '24?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that is on fiscal year '24 and will be expensed on fiscal year '24's budget.
Okay, just wanna make sure we're still getting it.
The other, so that's our vehicle topic. The other items in the capital projects were City Park, $1.5 million for City Park, and money being budgeted for a parks shop, a parks facility that will help store their equipment and kind of protect our equipment a little bit better.
Just to note on those, these are ones we've discussed in the past in some retreats. Recognize that as we move forward with these, they got to come back before you. So it's not going to be a situation where you're like, hey, why are we moving dirt? What's going on out there? You'll see these projects coming before you for approval, and we're having discussions amongst staff to determine timeframes on that. So.
As well as the Public Works shop, we've had discussions on that. This is just putting those discussions into the budget. And then, okay, so then there's a $4 million transfer to MCN. So that is the discussion we've had as we're continuing our Mapleton City Network project. We've already discussed this of moving, lending money to the project from the general fund. This is that transaction where we're lending the money to the general fund. We're budgeting for that, and then just as a side note, we have not drawn all of the funds from the bond. We're still drawing on our two bonds, and we'll continue to draw on those two bonds. This budget is giving us the ability, when MCN is ready and has gotten to that point, that we can draw on this note or this loan as well. And we are treating it just like we're treating those bonds. This is a loan that will be repaid with interest. That is how this has been approved by the council. Now the council has the ability to make some decisions on that, but as far as this goes, this $4 million has been approved to be a loan at a, I believe it was, I'm not going to give you the specifics, so I don't remember the exact numbers, but it does have a interest rate that was similar to the market at the time council approved this. So this is just budgeting for that and allowing us to move forward with that. Okay, were there any questions with the expenditures? Those were just the highlights that I brought forward, but were there any other questions?
Not for me.
Okay. Just real quick, the surpluses and reserves, we are budgeting a general fund surplus of $660,000, which we are transferring to the capital project reserves. We want to keep our general fund reserve below 35%. That is always a moving target. We're playing with 3 different fiscal years to try and match that up, but these are just some moving numbers. You'll see these numbers change as we get closer to our adopting the actual budget, but this is just kind of our estimates at this point. And then in our capital projects, as of fiscal year '23, we had $7.2 million in our capital project reserves of unearmarked funds. With this budget proposal, we are utilizing 3.8. So including our capital projects that we're building at the park, our shop facility, and our loan that we're lending to the Mapleton City Network, we're only utilizing 3.8 million of our 7.2 million reserves. Again, that 7.2 is just a constantly moving target until we close out our books. We can give you an exact number on that, but that's why I have to go back to fiscal year '23, because that's when we last closed our books. But that's kind of our projection of what we'll be doing there. And then our culinary water, we will be utilizing $1.5 million of reserves and $2 million of impact fees. This isn't everything. This isn't all of the funds, but this just were some funds that I wanted to highlight and point out. Okay, that is it for our tentative budget. If there aren't any questions, then that is the resolution.
Thank you, Bryce. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, well, I just have a comment or a request, I guess. It's not actually about the dollars of it, but it's about the implications for some of the things we're doing with finances and taxing and everything, especially with the truth in taxation. Could we plan to have a really solid communication strategy that we can provide input to, with whether it's Madison develops it and the council can contribute to it? We're going to need a long, long road to make sure we educate well. I mean, we see what's happening. Draper request with their budget with the 1.6 million increase. The media coverage on it is causing an uproar over 1.6 million on a over $100 million budget. That will affect citizens, $50 to $100 total dollars for the whole year. I want to avoid that kind of thing as much as possible if we can really, really have a really solid communication plan. So that's just my request. I'm less concerned about the budget as it is itself. I'm more concerned about the things that are coming up. And I think we need to start getting information out in the next month.
That's a great question. As a staff and also working with the mayor, we've been having that exact discussion. We've had some preliminary discussion with Jed Morty. If you recall, he helped us with the rebranding, and also Ron, who helped us with the surveying. We've asked them to provide us with a proposal of a scope, just doing exactly what you're saying.
Right.
I'm anticipating having something for you that next city council meeting to say, hey, here's a proposal as far as what that scope would look like. And that would include dates and schedules.
Yeah, I think it's worth investing in the education of the citizens on this. We haven't seen this for, when did we say we ended up truth in taxation? It's been so long, and the city's changed so much that as much as we can do to educate on that and the wrap, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. So I love that you're doing that. Thank you.
Yep, we'll keep you posted. We'll know more in a few weeks. And I know in the budget review meeting, there was the topic of doing, and the newsletter having some messaging in regards to how that truth in taxation works, RAP tax works, those type of things. But if we can get Jed and Ron, and if as a council you feel good about what their scope is and proposal, that'll give us a good moderator to help with this.
And we need assets to share as well as part of that, which I'm
That's
sure
right.
they'll come up with. But the more people we have out there educating as kind of ambassadors will be great. So thank you for doing
Yeah,
that. I appreciate it.
100% agree with that, but not only educating, but gleaning their feedback, some survey questions and their feedback on the direction that we're kind of heading. I want to get feedback on what the citizens want. So,
Yeah, some good opportunity for prioritizing, especially with the RAP.
yeah.
There might be some things there.
Yep, amen.
Okay,
Thanks for those comments, Jessica. I appreciate it.
No problem.
okay, is there a motion to approve?
I will make a motion that we approve a resolution adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2024 and 2025 as presented.
Second. So
Do we
have a-
need to include in that setting the date for the public hearing?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Where's that? Is that, do you have that wording in?
It's not in the agenda.
What was the date?
I can find it for you.
7th, June 7th?
June,
That one it was.
22nd?
Yeah, the June 7th meeting,
Hearing for June 5th.
5th, June 5th. Keeping in mind that we're going to set it for that date, that's how we've advertised this. We may continue that so that we can possibly have the rate available before we have that.
That's great.
Okay, so is there an amended motion?
I make a motion to approve a resolution adopting a tentative budget for fiscal year 2024 and 2025 as presented with the anticipated hearing to approve the final budget on June 8th?
Sorry, let me.
June
but-
5th.
Yeah,
And set a public hearing to adopt the proposed tax rate,
and to set a public hearing to adopt the public tax
the
rate.
proposed tax rate.
Proposed tax rate.
Second. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Garrett, a second by Councilmember Jones.
Egbert, yes.
Heck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Thank you. We'll go on to item number 4. Rob, we'll turn this to you.
Thank you. Okay, so our 2024 HA5 project is what's before
Hey,
you.
Rob?
Can you
Mind
use the
using my
microphone?
mic?
Not that we can't hear you, but people online can.
There we go.
There you go.
All right, Rob Hunter, Public Works Director. This is the 2024 HA5 project. This is consistent with what we've had Holbrook do for several years now. They have a proprietary high-density mineral bond called HA5. It's worked for us very well. They are the sole source of HA5 in Utah. It lasts much longer than our slurry seals, so you'll see it's more expensive, but it also lasts significantly longer and is a really good product for its price. The contract complies. I know a couple of the questions that we got last year when we did this project. I just wanted to confirm the contract complies with state procurement policy. That Utah Code 72-6-109 allows sole sourcing or doing the project yourself. Basically, doesn't require a bid for road projects up to $350,000, which this is below. And that also complies with our city procurement policy, which does allow for sole source projects. So if you want to go to the next slide.
Really quick on the HA5, is that the same treatment that we've been using on the trenching, on the fiber trenching?
That was done on some of the roads last year that had fiber trenching, but that's the fiber trenching is the mastic. Is you're just talking about the
Yeah, the little 4-inch strip that's going across the top of it.
Yeah.
That's not a,
that's not
This is
HA5. No,
HA5,
that's a mastic that goes over the seals the trench. No, the HA5 is a whole road treatment.
okay.
So
I've just been really impressed with that mastic. It's very hardy.
yeah, it
and-
is.
and durable.
So our recommendation is to award the project to Holbrook for their proposed price of $337,445 or $455.05. You can see on the map before you in green are the new roads that'll be done this year. We're doing areas of the city that have already had the trench done, so that we can, seal and not have it cut within a few months. And then we'll focus on the central and southern portions of the city next year after this year's project is done. And then in the red, it's not showing up quite as well as I was hoping here on the screen, but the red are some of the areas over by the junior high where because we had the HA5 project going at the same time that the contractor was cutting the trenches, we needed to go and do some touch-up work there over the trenches. So.
And Corey, is this the procedure that we're going to have at Harvest Park that you sent that email to us? This is what you were referring to?
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Great, is that all?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the available road funds as requested for the HA5 high-density mineral bond treatment.
second. We have a motion to approve this item by Councilmember Egbert and a second by Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Jones, yes?
Garrett, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Okay, item number 5. Rob, we'll throw this to you again.
Okay. So this is the pressurized irrigation project going down US Highway 89 on the east side. There's a couple of sections, I've got a map on the next slide, but there's a couple of sections in between 800 South and 1600 South that need to be connected, and then laying the pipe from 1600 South all the way down to the Mapleton Heights projects on the south side of town, and then from there, those 3 new master plan developments on the south side of town will connect together. They're pressurized irrigation. So if you go back up to the previous slide, sorry. The bid was open to all licensed contractors who met a certain criteria. This is a large pressurized irrigation main going on the highway, and so we wanted to make sure that they had previous experience putting in large main, and that they had specific experience on the highway, just because this is, a really important portion of the pressurized irrigation system. We wanted to make sure we had somebody with experience. But it was put on the state procurement website, open to any licensed contractors who submitted with their bid to show that they met that criteria. In the pre-bid meeting, it was attended by 10 contractors. In the end, we received 2 bids, and Rhino was the low bid and met the criteria. And so we would propose, if you want to just go to the next slide, we would recommend awarding Rhino the contract for the Highway 89 pressurized irrigation project for their bid amount of $1,517,339.
And I think it's important to note that it was significantly lower.
Yeah.
In our packet. I mean, it's not here on this, your slide, but it's significantly lower than the other bid.
Yes. Yep.
Just one question. What was the anticipated or the budgeted amount for the same work?
We kind of put together 2. Our initial was a little bit lower, more in the 1.4 to 1.5 range, just kind of putting a generalized dollar per linear foot of large main like this. When we put together had our consultant put together a more detailed with some contingencies and everything, it was a little bit higher. So this was right in between the 2 estimates, the kind of quick estimate and the more detailed with some contingency just to make sure we had enough in the budget. It was right in between. So in the realm of what we're looking at. So the total budget that we have for pressurized irrigation projects at this point, we in the amended budget, we amended our master plan projects, which is a master plan project, to a total of $2 million. Part of that is going towards our portion of what we need to pay on the high pressure line that Harmony Ridge is putting in, but we'll have plenty of budget to cover this.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Whose turn is
I
it
don't
for
know,
a
I feel
motion?
comfortable doing a motion if I'm in this spot.
Oh, you're
so.
not expected to. I just think it's just appropriate that we make some comments on the sensitive nature of this, being that I think my understanding is this is the first time that Mayor Hakes' company has been awarded a job while he's been mayor for a city-sponsored project.
And probably even bid on a job. Is that accurate?
I think he's bid on some in the past, but go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I can only speak to that. I'd have to look through the history of things. I know they've had city projects before, whether that was before Mayor Hake's time.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I know they haven't, this is the first time that we've awarded them in the year and a half that I've been here. I'd have to look
Well,
back
and
through.
certainly since the mayor has been in office. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's important that the public knows that we've been very sensitive to this and vetted every angle of this, and that all of the criteria have been met, and that it was put out to bid. 10 contractors had the option to at least look at it and bid, and they came in with the right criteria and the low bid. So I just want to make sure the public understands that.
Yeah. To speak specifically to that, again, it was put on the Utah State procurement website that sends it out to, when we say it's a big water line project, they have some lists that they send it out to. So anybody who signed up on that, which, I mean, all the main contractors are up on that, the state procurement website, it'll send them a notification saying it's available. And we did have 10 contractors show up. We did not have any, consistent with our procurement policy and the specifications that we put together for the project. We don't talk to contractors separately once the contract is out to bid. And so the only time that we had interaction with Rhino, and I think with Mayor Hakes being gone, I don't think I had any contact with him during the entire bid process. I know we didn't talk about this project specifically, but Rhino did not have any direct conversation with us except at regarding this project, except at the pre-bid meeting where those 10 contractors were, and the questions were made to were said in front of everybody, the answers were said in front of everybody. And so, yeah, there was no special consideration given.
Great. Thank you.
Great, awesome. I will make a motion then that we approve the award of the contract for the Highway 89 pressurized irrigation project to Rhino Excavation LLC has been presented.
Second, we have a motion to approve this item by Councilmember Garrett, a second by Councilmember Jones. I think it's me.
I think you're up.
Jones, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Paulson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Beck, yes.
Okay, great, thank you very much. We will now move to administrative reports. Rob?
All right.
Have you run the batteries out yet on that microphone?
I got to stop pushing the button. It's on
Between
the
you and
back, so I
Bryce,
can't see
we
if
got
it's on
some,
if it's on or off. Well, I probably should have said this the last council meeting, but it is Public Works Month, and so I just wanted to give a shout out to my to the personnel there at Public Works who are doing an awesome job. And just to remind everybody, we've got 14 personnel who cover all of the utilities in the roadway. I guess besides the Mapleton City Network, we have all the other utilities. All the wet utilities and the roadway. We have 14 people to cover that, and they do an excellent job. In fact, just this week with a couple of things that could have turned, I guess people could have been on high alert when our guys went out there. I got only compliments about what their interactions were with the residents and the job that they did. So I'm very proud of them. Mapleton Springs project is going great as we continue along. They've dug into to explore basically all the springs, and there is a lot of water. So this is going to be a really good project for the city going forward of making sure we redevelop these springs, and it'll be a source, a constant source of water for the city for a long time, and of very good. Spring water is great water, and you can tell just as it's coming out. I mean, people will stick their cups right in there and take a drink. It's good stuff. So,
Rob, maybe just touch a little bit on some changes on the road improvements in that time frame of June. I know you're still kind of working on the final discussions with that, but.
So we had originally discussed with the Forest Service to repair the road up to the campground and through the campground in June. The road, especially above, maybe halfway up past the lower gate, and up into the campground, as we dug into it, realized very quickly this was not what you would typically think of as an asphalt road. It was a couple of very thin chip seals on top of each other, no road base. And so as our construction equipment went over it, just tore it to pieces. So they're at this point, you know, above the chlorinator building, there is no road. It's just road base right now. And so while we're continuing with basically a full road repair needing to be done up past the chlorinator building, it didn't make sense to us, and we talked with the Forest Service, didn't make sense to them for us to rebuild this road in June if we're going to continue this construction through the fall. And so we've set a separate time in September to just pave the road at that point. And so the contractor has put down road base to make sure that and they'll go through as needed and regrade to make sure that it's a smoother ride as possible for people who are going up there and into the campground. But the paving won't happen until September.
We're putting final kind of discussions on that, and next week we'll post that out and let our residents know of the modifications to that, so.
Yep.
Great.
And then just as to make you aware, the Kraut Canyon, there's going to be a dedicated pipeline from the well to the tank that should help with water quality on the south end of town for all those new developments that are going in there. That'll go out to bid tomorrow, and so we'll bring that. I think I've got that scheduled for the June 19th city council meeting to have that approved, so we can get that going and have that done by the fall. And then also make you aware, we got $75,000. I don't recall that I brought this up in previous city council meetings, but we got $75,000 from the community development block grants, Utah County Community Development Block Grants, that's done through MAG to do ADA ramps where we're missing them or they do not meet current criteria. So we won't be able to fix absolutely all of them that don't currently meet criteria, but we'll be able to do the majority, and especially the ones where either the ramp is completely missing or it's far off from meeting criteria. So it'll be a good project.
I love that. Good
That's
job.
great, thank you. Reed, do you have an update or a report?
Not a lot, but we did close down the old transfer station. We got our demolition permit, and we've started demolition, probably be through in about a month and a half, we're guessing, something like that. So far, the new transfer station has had a few more glitches, but nothing that we haven't expected or prepared for, and it's starting to work smoother every day. So far, so good in that direction. The seniors are glad that they're going to have a new carpeting floor, a new gym carpeted floor in the basement, so they appreciate the work the city's doing in that regard.
Thank you. I took a load of some shredded, a couple of boxes of shred paper over there last Saturday. Let that be a lesson to you, don't go on Saturday. Needless to say, I'll be good.
Our record had been 550 visits on a Saturday, and last Saturday, I think it was 800.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I turned around and figured I'd go back on maybe a Thursday morning.
Well, I don't know what, anyway, everybody's wanting to go. That's the most they've ever had.
That's great.
It's our new favorite hangout, Costco and the
Costco and the
waste
transfer
transfer
station.
Simple things, we love it.
Jessica,
Only update, we had our community preparedness activity with fire safety and CPR education, some beginners CPR education, and it was a good event. It was interesting. I think we've learned a lot in terms of how we need to more formalize our communication strategies to let people know that it exists, and how we promote it on our website and everything. But we had a great turnout. It ended up being a lot of kids and teenagers, and I, even as mom, was particularly excited. My kid was taught things by experts that I hadn't even taught him, and when that car blew up, it was really pretty awesome. So we had a good time. The fire department did a great job putting on the event, and so we'll look forward to next quarter's event. Stay tuned.
great, thank you. Casey,
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything.
Nothing for me either.
Corey?
A couple items for you. First one, and this kind of ties to Logan and Chief Jackson as well. Obviously, you hear from time to time from residents in regards to our trail and wanting to make sure that it's as clean as possible, and the debris and the rocks and gravel and mud, et cetera, that come. And it obviously doesn't take only 10 minutes of a rainstorm and all of a sudden we have a mess, especially on that south end of town. One of the things we're recognizing, the combination of things. Rob's done a good job of keeping our contractors in check. They certainly have some days where they could do a little better, but all in all, we felt they've made some improvements. Me and Chief drove down there yesterday and just kind of monitored and watched, and there's a lot of ATVs, motorcycles, electric bikes, et cetera, that's coming and going. So we recognize that's a challenge. Chief might talk on this a little bit more, but there's two things we wanted to bring up to you as a council. One is we're going to put a sign up down a little south of Triple Crown, and just to notify those who are walking or riding their bikes that, hey, there's going to be some construction down here, so use caution, and if you're not wanting your tires popped, et cetera, you might want to turn around and go north. But that's one thing we're looking at. And Chief, do you want to talk a little bit on enforcement and get some insight from them?
And I'm happy to say this publicly. I hope people are listening to this, but I've put a camera down there to kind of watch some things. I put that up this morning. It was interesting, as I went down the trail in our ATV, I caught a pretty good earful until they realized it was a police ATV, and then realized we were on the same team there. So the reason I bring that up is I do believe the residents that are walking and using it want some help down there. I visited with them. I spent about an hour down there visiting really good people using the trails. So now that it's warmer and the ATV's available, we have some double coverage in the afternoons. We'll start assigning some guys as needed to go down there and patrol that on the ATV a little bit more. We'll work the whole trail, but primarily the issue we're seeing, like Corey said, is on the south end. So, and then when, excuse me, when I get some pictures pulled back up, I'll email those out to you and kind of see what we're seeing down there. So hopefully it's in a good spot. So.
Do you have any thoughts or insight for us as how we're handling it so far? Or you hear from different residents?
I just think it's great that we're on it. I think there's a lot of concerned citizens and uneducated citizens that there's construction going on down there. Also uneducated citizens in the fact that being out there illegally on ATVs and dirt bikes is a big cause of the problem. So I just appreciate you guys being on it.
Well, and I've noticed people that are on their motorbikes, and I don't know how you do this, but they put it on some gear so you're kind of coasting, so it's not really motoring.
Are you talking the electric one?
Electric bike?
I'm talking about a dirt bike.
Oh.
You know what I mean? They put it on, they kind of basically coast, and then as soon as they get to where they want to go off-road, then they rev it up and do their thing.
There's a lot of area down there for them to ride.
Yeah, I think that's
So
why it draws them.
I can see why they're drawn up in there.
Yeah.
And Corey and I, it's a tough topic when they're crossing straight and back and forth over the trail.
Yeah.
It is a lot different than driving up and down the trail. But talking to the residents this morning, they're seeing them up and down the trail. So.
I've been on the trail and have been passed by them more than once. Yeah.
And sorry, Corey, I kind of jumped in. I know you got more to do, but while we're on the topic of the bikes, the e-bike, if you remember last council meeting, I said, hey, I'm going to ask these guys to crack down, and they have, and it's not got great reviews from some residents, so you might hear a little bit about that, but.
I know the people that I know that ride the e-bikes on the trail are generally people that wouldn't otherwise be active, and they're just out on a couple or a little group of very wise people who have had a lot of life experience.
Certainly not too worried about that group. The ones the officers are looking for is, the young kids that aren't licensed or driving them fast or on our maybe high-density roads and stuff like that.
Public roads
Okay.
and
Yeah.
That shouldn't be going
And
that
I shouldn't
fast.
say that it's all bad reviews. It's hard. I think I've told all you guys, it's very hard because you have a group that want it enforced very strictly and a group that's like, just let the kids be kids. And I get that. I get both sides of that, and try to balance that's really tough.
Until a kid gets hit.
But
Or
we've
hit
had it
something.
here, so I feel like we have an obligation there. So there are some people that aren't too happy with that enforcement, just so you guys know.
There's a property, what is it, 900 North, where the new development, there's a development coming in. that had the parade home in it last year, that wraps around behind the white church, right? That, you know what I'm talking about?
Right, 9th North?
So that would be,
Is it
that would be 200 south.
900 South, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, wait. Yeah,
Nice.
200,
Oh, yeah.
200
okay.
South, okay, so Maple,
goes
and
down
then
in,
just down,
yeah.
and it goes in
Yeah.
curves.
Yeah.
That has turned into a bike park.
Yeah.
I don't know what the status is, but there are people flying, getting huge air off of the hills there. I'm super concerned. I don't know if somebody owns both of those lots or if we have a lot of trespassing and they're just building it into a bike park.
That would be my first step, is to find out who owns the property and what their status is with it.
Yeah,
so.
if we can do a drive-by on that, it's just gotten bigger and
Yeah.
bigger, and now it's, I mean, it's a gathering place
Yeah.
for kids and stuff. I'm really concerned about
Gotcha.
safety issues. It's really loud, too, if you drive by, and so I can't believe if we haven't heard any complaints yet, but, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about what's going on right there as well.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Going back to the scooters, electric rideables kind of topic, would it be beneficial for us to do some kind of educating using social media
Yeah.
of what is legal, what's not legal? I think there's a lot of.
Every year we
there's-
gotta do it.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
ignorance out there about what's
We're-
legal, what's not legal.
We have it planned. Madison and I are working on it. We just haven't found that right graphic yet that we want to put out. And I'll just be honest, it's confusing. There's so many different variations of those bikes that if you don't put out the right graphic, it just becomes overwhelming and confusing and you look
Yeah.
past it. So anyway, that's in the works there.
That one is the corner of, I think it's 300 West, 600 South, but it's right when you get that turn
Okay.
coming in, so.
I'll head to there after the meeting, check it out.
Yeah, it'll be real clear. There's
Yeah.
huge mounds of dirt that have been moved,
Okay,
so.
yeah, I'll check it out. I'm sorry, Corey.
Yeah, you're good.
Probably is a lot of fun. Yeah.
Two other items for you. From time to time, we're getting residents reaching out to us in regards to their fencing standards. So currently, we have a fence ordinance. We do not require them to get a permit. And what we're finding, especially in those areas where you got the 1-2 acre lots, interest of putting up a wrought iron fence in our front yard setbacks to go higher than 6 feet. Our current ordinance says it's got to be a maximum of 4 feet. With that said, I just want to bring that before you. Is that something as a county would be interested in changing?
Or is
when you
this
have these 2
regarding
acre
along
lots?
the parking lot, like on a corner lot, for example?
Anywhere. It's whether it's corner lot or just regular lot. These bigger lots, they get into the little bit of excitement of.
Their estate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just talking about more specifically where it kicks back, where it's supposed to kick down, where it gets closer to the street, right? For
Correct.
for
So
visual.
basically, I'm talking front yard setback. So
Yeah.
if someone wants to put from the street, their property line, 6 feet back to their,
Yeah.
to their house.
Well, we have standards on the visual requirements, right? It's got to be 80% or whatever,
50%, yeah,
50%.
yeah,
see-through.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's
wrought
only
iron-
wrought iron on there, basically. So the question is, moving from 4 feet to 6 feet.
That's correct. That's correct.
Hmm.
I don't,
I think
I'd be willing to consider it because
Yeah.
I haven't researched to know the argument against it. My instinct is, well, it doesn't
Yeah.
change it doesn't change the visual if it's the quality we would expect. But I think it's worthy of a
Okay,
conversation.
what we'll do is a discussion item on it. That helped. I wanted to see if you're interested in at least
Yeah, bring
looking
some
at it.
pictures and some examples and some data, and as long as the opacity is still safe, then I'd consider.
Okay.
Considering.
Yep, that sounds good. Last one for you. We had an individual reach out to us, was concerned with currently one of our, obviously with our construction of the fiber and doing the trenching, et cetera. They were working on the weekends. They worked this last week, and it was a little frustrating to this resident that we were allowing them to work on a Sunday, especially it being Mother's Day. So they'd asked if I would bring that up at a council meeting, just in regards to see what your thoughts are. Their proposal is, and I was talking to Rob about this a little bit, but that any project that the city's in charge of, that they would have an agreement that they could not work on a Sunday. There's pros and cons in that. As me and Rob talked back and forth, we felt probably wouldn't be the best thing to do for a number of reasons, but you might get some calls on that from time to time.
I prefer not to interfere with the private business of a private entity if they're making that choice. I mean, if we're speaking religious observation, some people observe on Saturdays, some on Sundays, and I don't think we could prohibit that. That's my
The only thing you
perspective.
could do if it's our project. So since it's ours, we could say, hey, within the contract, we don't want you working Saturdays and Sundays, whatever it might be.
Install guys that are doing
Trenching.
the trenching.
Yeah,
I-
so it'd be, if Rob was doing a project, for example, and having, a company coming in to put in HA5, he could, if that was a requirement, say, hey, you can only work Monday through Saturday, not on Sundays.
What are the implications to other things like Pioneer Day events when we have people cleaning up Sunday mornings? And I think
Right.
this is,
That was
if
a,
we're going to make a citywide policy, which I don't feel the need to govern, then we need to look at when that might show up and affect other things as well.
Yeah,
So
that makes
I
sense, yeah.
appreciate the residents' concern, especially if there was noise or things on their weekend. I get that. It's a rare occurrence we'd see it, but I personally don't feel the need to interfere with day-to-day operations with staff and schedule, our department heads scheduling staff to get projects done in a timely and cost-efficient manner. I would rather not.
okay.
Right,
That-
I
that-
agree with that.
I think the issue only comes up when there's a loud noise happening and it's
Yeah.
noticeable, and this is a temporary, we're almost to the end.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah,
it's
and they
not-
were out, obviously, that area within that day,
Yeah.
so it wasn't a,
When they went through my area, it was annoying, and it was on Sundays, but we all knew that fiber was coming, so.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't think that's something that we need to get involved in.
okay. That's all I had, thank you.
Chief Jackson,
I stood here, so
yeah, you got it, you got it.
Call on me.
I'm a sucker for events that involve kids, and that fire event was awesome. Those kids loved that. They ate that up. I was glad I took my kid to that. So major props to the fire department for putting time and effort into burning that car up and doing the things that they did down there. That community preparedness committee's gone a lot farther than I thought it would this quick. There's some good people on that committee, and we'll keep working forward, but those community events are awesome. Speaking of fire, they got breakfast covered for you Saturday morning, so 7 to 10 over at the fire station is their firefighters' pancake breakfast. You've seen the signs around town. So there'll be a lot of work put into that. I'm sure, Theron, you've got some assignments for that too, right?
I'll be starting to flip pancakes at 5 in the morning, probably.
Good for you guys. Just a couple real quick things on the police side. Man, I just want to tell those guys how much I appreciate them in the last week stepping up and helping a neighbor city. You know, every officer had a role somewhere along the line. Some were more than others, somewhere, but, you know, I was pretty proud to see our police cars roaming the Santaquin streets working in the last week. I get it costs money, but I know if it happened here, they'd be right here for us too. So, heart breaks for those guys over there. They were awesome through it, but I'm glad that we were able to play a role in that. So thanks for being supportive of that. And so and if any of the officers are listening, I appreciate them standing up and going over there. They put in a lot of overtime and did some honorable things. So just want to let you know that. And then Logan needs his day in the shine, but I'm just going to preface it. But again, I'm a sucker for event for kids. That opening day parade is awesome. And with that, I'm going to turn the time to Logan.
I had a few people in my neighborhood comment on it and just how sweet it is.
It's my favorite. Well, it's pretty close to favorite thing. It might be the favorite thing.
Cartwheel.
Do we need some walk-up music for this?
Yeah.
Feels like.
I'm impressed that Logan's walking upright.
No, couple ice baths, ibuprofen goes a long ways. So, no, I'll echo Chief. It was great. I mean, obviously the parade has been a long-standing tradition, but it's been something that I've been passionate about on trying to find a different way to engage the community and continue to elevate that experience. And so, our staff, I mean, no pun intended, hit a home run this year. It was awesome. A lot of new things and activities, and nothing but good feedback. One of the things I'll just touch on, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Savannah Bananas, the banana ball. That's what we were trying to emulate, which is very immersive experience for fan experience and engagement. And so we did a little game between our coaches and some of our 7th and 8th grade girls and did a wiffle ball game. Coaches had to dress up and be in some different attire, and I was the quirky, fun umpire and did backflips if they scored runs, and it was awesome. We had a really good time. We had some hot dogs that we gave away. Always things that we can learn and improve on, but overall, just a big shout out to our staff for being, very innovative and thinking outside of the box to find a way to put on a good show. So it was fun, but we couldn't do it without support of of our other departments and police helping out on our parade route. We had our debrief today, and I actually was gonna bring it up, just talking about it, but, one of our issues last year was the throwing the candies on the float, and this year, we only counted one person that was doing it, and so that was a big
Great.
improvement from what it
Yeah.
was, and there was actually people that we could tell actually read our rules and were walking alongside it, and so kudos to all of our coaches and our community for actually listening to what we put out there too, so that was awesome.
That's great
So,
news.
And then we had our Chalk the Walk on Monday night. Wasn't as well attended as we've had in the past. We had some different things that we did this year to try to help get some attendance. I also think it was a hot night. And then once the tail end of it came, the shade came, and it was just a beautiful evening. So still well-attended event. Honestly, pretty low-key from a staff perspective. It's just a good, fun, low-cost event to highlight our trail system and get people up there. One of the things this year, we tried to focus on health and wellness. So there was like fit stops along the way where you could do push-ups or jumping jacks or walk a half mile, or then we had some health vendors that came and participated and talked about kind of health and wellness. And one thing I'll note on that is due to the new recognition as a healthy Utah or a healthy city in the Healthy Utah organization, those are the things that we have to continue to do to meet those standards that we said, yes, we'll do that. So
Great addition to the
yeah,
trail.
so
event.
that's just one thing, we talked a little bit about last time, that designation, but, hopefully you'll see some more of those things come around too, to kind of help elevate that, because, I know from our perspective, we don't take lightly that designation, and it really does mean something to focus on our health and wellness of the community, so. And then Pioneer Days is coming up, so, registration has been opened up. We've got our pre-sale. Starting after Memorial Day, you'll really start kind of seeing a lot more of our social media and banners and different things that are getting out. But get it out to friends and families, and all of our registration pre-sale for tickets is open, ping pong drop, all that stuff. So
Is there any way to set it up so we can buy the wristbands online and then just come to the park and check our name off and give it to them?
yeah, we've talked about that. It's just the logistics behind it. That's what we haven't found a solution. If you have some input on it that you
That's about
felt-
it.
Yeah, that's about where we got
I'm at
to too.
work, so I'm not coming over here during the day.
Yeah.
But if there's any way I can just even buy it through sports sites, and then there's a couple lines the day of, and it's pre-purchased, and you can breeze through or whatever, and it's just checkbox. But
Yeah, and that was-
I'd love to be able to just buy them online.
For sure. And that's one thing that we've worked on, is maybe at the park is having a separate table that is all of your pre-sale, pre-bought, but then just making sure that we're up to date on who's on that and when it came. And so we'll continue to explore it, because I think, as consumers, that is way easier than this and walking down the stairs and swiping the card and,
Yeah, heaven
know.
knows I don't want to walk down the stairs.
yeah.
Healthy
Healthy,
city.
yeah.
Who needs
I'll
that?
show up with my wristband.
I'm hearing, though, the idea would be you pay for it, and then day of can walk up to a table and say, hey,
Yeah.
here's my receipt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some opportunities for it. Bryce and I have talked a couple things.
You shut it down the
Well-
day before, so you can't buy them online, and you
Yeah.
have a current
It's a little
list.
tricky with the ticketing system and doing that, but one thing to note is the lines last year were phenomenal compared to
They were set
previous
up
year.
well. They were
It
even
went-
laid out well.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
a lot less wait, so
Yeah,
maybe
and,
let's.
and we had QR codes, around the park too, that you didn't have to be in line, and then there was a separate line that if you had pre-bought there. So, but I think it's something we can continue to, if there's a way that we can do that, I agree, it would be very, very helpful, so.
We'll go no matter what.
Yeah, so, no, it's shaping up to be a good one. Our volunteers are stepping up, and a couple new fun ones. I think I touched on one last time, but our Mapleton's Got Talent will be on Friday evening before our street dance. And then we'll do a disc golf night on Tuesday night. So that should be a fun
We
addition
haven't
too.
ever had a disc golf, have we?
Nope, it's a brand new one this year.
Yeah.
So just trying to get people,
That park, huh?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have that.
Yeah, and we'll have, we're gonna do some reconfiguration of some of the holes. We'll probably start on that about the 1st of June is what we're hoping. And then we'll update our signage, and that's kind of hoping where we'll have kind of a kickoff to showcase the course. Because really, I mean, I'm not a big disc golfer. I have some staff that's really invested into it, and they've since showed me an app, and our course is very highly rated. It's a very short, forgivable beginner course, which is perfect because a lot of local courses around here are a little bit more advanced. So it's a really good course, and so we're just trying to help, get some awareness to it locally too. So,
You
and
gotta
then,
teach people how to do it as part of that.
and that's what it is actually, is,
Yeah.
yep.
Oh, perfect.
So there's a couple guys in town, that are very passionate about it, and they had asked it, we said, perfect,
Yeah,
come on in, come teach it. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. There's gonna be some instructional, there'll be some games, and then everybody will get their own little scorecard and have an opportunity to go do their own thing after, but a lot of it will be kind of, this is disc golf, this is how you throw, this is how you prevent from going off canter. So, yeah, it'll be awesome. And then spike ball's a new one. This year, we're partnering with RoundNet, Utah RoundNet Association. So we won't do much with it. They take all the registrations, and then we just work a split out with them. And then it's the same night as our cornhole. So from our perspective, we're already there. So,
Be at the same
Yeah, I was
location.
yep, it'll be at Iron Park. Yep. So anyways, be awesome.
Fun.
That's all I got.
Thanks, Logan. Okay, is there anything else? If there isn't anything else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
Gary, yes.
Yes.
Yep. Is
Yep,
that what I heard? Yes.
yes. Casey, you good to go, or you have anything you want to add?
Casey,
He's out.
he had to step.
He's out.
Step out.
Okay. Have a good night.
Thank you.